welcome to Industry Knowledge Exchange Conclave HR Forum, brought to you by CNBC TV 18, powered by SAP. The topic for today is value proposition for HR digitization and getting it right. Introducing my esteemed panelists, we've got Arun Dinakar Rao, the Chief People Officer at Birlasoft, Harsh Vendra Soin, the Global Chief People Officer and Head of Marketing at Tech Mahindra, Ms. Preeti Kaul, People and Culture Head at Upgrad, James Thomas, Vice President, Success Factors India at SAP, and Ms. Kavita Kulkarni, CHRO, Varrock Engineering Private Limited. Harsh, just want to start the discussion with you on the first point about building an agile digital HR platform. When we say an agile HR, what exactly are we talking about?
We're really talking about a people function that can deal with the unpredictability, can deal with what's happening on the macro trends, and respond, faster than what is really what people expect. Now, when I talk about macro trends, I talk about unpredictability that's going to happen around. I'm talking about unprecedented automation that we see. I'm talking about the gig economy that we are all faced with, and of course the changing employee expectations. So really being agile is being on the move and making sure that the response is in line with what's expected, and even faster than that, because clearly as people function, we are now living our purpose and values by translating the behaviors into the leadership team and our associates.
Preeti, what are the challenges that an agile HR can solve that a traditional HR could not have?
If I just specifically talk about the last 18 months, I think the biggest change factor that came into the HR team was while we quintessentially are defined as the people team, but what Harsh just mentioned is the ability to pivot with every single new dynamic that came into the workplace. On one side, you had business continuity. On the other side, you had to look after the emotional and actually the physical well-being of your employees. I think balancing those two things, whereas you are traditionally trained that business comes first, communities, business, and then your employees. I think the whole shift primarily was around rolling with the punches and dealing with the ambiguity and uncertainty while you're trying to keep everything together. I think the biggest anchor in the last 18 months for the HR team has been to keep an emotionally steady team delivering business results.
James, what about in digital HR? How is technology helping HR today? What have been the benefits that it has yielded, whether it's in terms of your employee satisfaction or the customer experience?
From a digitization perspective, there are 2 or 3 clear trends that ties in with this. The first one is the balance that is needed between standardization, which digitization and automation provides, with personalization. I think Harsh did mention the flexibility that is needed in the way we manage and engage with people. So the first thing is this digital tools today try to provide that balance between standardizing the processes, standardizing various aspects of employee engagement and experience with a real-time, personalized, flexible way of how we need to understand our employees, our people, and how do we engage with them in real time on a daily basis. The second aspect is there is a certain connectedness coming into our lives. And that is across processes in an organization. Earlier, we used to look at talent acquisition as a separate process, performance as a separate process, compensation as a separate process. Today, there is an interconnectedness coming in the way we hire employees or hire people to the way we manage them through the life cycle of the journey in an organization. So there is an interconnectedness or a connectedness across processes that's clearly coming in, and digitization is really paving the way for that interconnectedness. The third aspect, which Rima, you did, is what you asked me, is this element of experience and engagement. Today's generations, whether it is millennials or the Zs or even the alphas who are yet to come into the workforce, there's a huge empowerment view that they have on what is their purpose, what do they want to do in life, what do they want to do in their careers, what do they want to do with a job. There is a redefinition happening to this engagement experiences that all of us cherish, or people in our organizations cherish. And digital tools need to go to employees in the way information is being available to them as information, as decisions that they can take with it. So there is it's no longer employees going to applications. It is applications reaching out to employees in the same way. We get up in the morning and look at our mobiles. What is that WhatsApp message that I need to read? Or what's that Facebook or Instagram picture I need to look at? There is HR applications today are reaching out to employees, and there is a certain empowered, engaged way in which applications are intuitively, in a guided manner, enabling employees to take smarter decisions.
But people still have that fear that, while a company may say they're comfortable with hybrid working or work from anywhere, they still get that fear that if I spend less face time in office, I will be discriminated against. A bit of that proximity bias. Arun, how do we ensure that doesn't happen? What is the role HR can play and how?
The fear that people have, if they have, is not unfounded, because in the past, people who opted for flexibility, people who dialed down, people who tried to work out an arrangement of work remotely, were often, or they often saw themselves outside the circle of influence, which had its own repercussions in terms of the reward apportionment from time to time. Scenario today is different. Scenario today is different because this is becoming an institutional working arrangement, where as part of the work design, remote working will become a much more larger and integral piece of how you will manage your workforce. And therefore it is incumbent on HR leaders and HR organizations to work with business to make sure that the processes and policies that impact rewards and recognition, that impact the way teams collaborate, the way, let's say, work packets are delivered, the way projects get integrated, those basic processes need to take into cognizance the presence of this remote workforce. The role of HR is to ensure that we are the conscience keepers. We need to make sure that not only is this in letter embedded in the various policies, we actually live by them.
Kavita, any thoughts on how you are using digitization to bring about hyper personalization?
There is a lot of personalization. I would say even standard approaches of the past, where someone would come and say, I have a better offer, and the person would just be said, okay, 3 months is your notice period, and that's what you have to serve. Compared to today, where we are personalizing these discussions, and if the person has a very niche skill, or if he's extremely important, we are taking a lot of exceptions. That's a huge change that I have seen in 3 decades of my experience. Now, coming to digital, the change that we are seeing when we say chat bots, we had chat bots for induction. And if somebody requires, where do I find X policy, A policy, we had a chat bot. Now, with the pandemic, we actually went reverse. We stopped it because we said the person needs to speak to somebody face to face, and we would have inductions online where the person could reach out. We've, of course, re-institutionalized it right now. The other standard processes that we have when it comes to policies around claims, with COVID anyway, travel was all stopped. But when we saw people were claiming for digital appliances, we tweaked our policies also around reimbursement for such kind of claims. Now, where does digital come in? Digital comes in where you look at the old processes, and when you say this is how you are actually working, but now you need to use digital tools. So right from induction to your exit process to confirmation processes, to, I think, the whole host of what any standard ERP could give you. Not just us, but many other organizations have gone through the whole hog to implement digital. We also implemented during COVID a job evaluation exercise, which is huge, and typically it takes anywhere between 8 to 9 months. But we were able to complete it, all of it digitally.
Thank you, Harsh, Arun, Kavita, Preeti, James. Thank you very much for joining us today. Hello and welcome to CNBC TV18.com Industry Knowledge Exchange Conclave powered by SAP. Now we know that enterprises today are facing pressure to reduce costs, to find creative and efficient ways to optimize production in a post-pandemic world. One of the key enablers to achieve this big feat is procurement. The onus of establishing economic and business growth in enterprises lies with procurement sectors, and to ensure that company today is equipped with agile functions in a dynamic environment. Today, I'm joined by an esteemed panel of industry leaders who are going to tell us how they're bringing this change in their respective industries to enhance organizational procurement and elevate production with business performances. Joining Sharad Gargia, the Group Chief Commercial Officer at Vedanta Limited, Mr. Naveen Alawad, the Chief of Procurement at JSPL, Mr. Rajesh Uppal, CIO, Maruti Suzuki Limited, Mr. Mansoor Akhtar, the Head of Indirect Procurement South Asia at Reckitt Benckiser, and Mr. Ashwini Narang, VP, Intelligence Spend Group at SAP. Gentlemen, a warm welcome to you today. Rajesh, historically, streamlining procurement processes was done to bring down costs. But now we know it's increasingly used as a value enabler. Can you tell us how procurement is making the change from being a cost saver to a key value enabler?
Very clearly, the whole landscape of procurement is changing. One very, very important element I personally feel is the whole ability to manage the procurement the way you do in your day-to-day life. You know, today with the Amazon kind of buying, or the e-commerce kind of buying, all of people do at their homes. I think everybody want to have that kind of experience in their working place also. Now you need a lot of automation to really manage that process, which is a more experience based, and also create best possible value into that. Now that's a big change which is happening in the industry today, and it has been going on for quite some time now. So we are looking at the whole process of procurement from point of view of the way it gives experience to both the buyer and the suppliers. Also, the experience of getting right value out of the buying. You have all the information available to you for taking right decision about buying.
Naveen, what are the current trends in procurement and what parts of the procurement process are you using technology today?
So I think the entire supply chain, we can see a lot of trends, disruptive trends where we are actually forced to take to adopt or to embrace the new technologies. Be it in terms of data minings, be in terms of really churning out the data, the trends. So we basically in a company we use SAP, and we are contemplating a lot of new softwares, new licenses which we are thinking, because we need to enhance, we have to take this journey forward. So, and digitalization is one of the enabler which can really take us to the path of good to great.
Ashwini, can you share your thoughts on the active role of technology in helping procurement thrive in the future, to adapt itself to the new normal?
So if there's a recent report by World Bank, WEF, and SAP has done its own benchmarking, and of course the credit rating firms. If you look at the physical economy of Asia, it's pegged to grow at around 8%, for the next 3 to 4 years. That's something which has been said. But if you look at the digital economy, it is pegged to grow around 20 to 25%. Now that's a 3 times growth over a physical economy growth, and I think as a part of that, you would see a lot of startups have now started evolving, not only in India but I think across Asia. So the trends are basically getting you towards a digital era or a digital world, so to say. Of course, along with technology comes the imperatives around it, and I think we are talking about technology enablement. We are talking about data and analytics. we are talking about operating model, looking in there. We are also talking about talent. It's very easy to say, Naveenji mentioned that probably we are looking at getting from good to great. And I think in that process, talent becomes very, very important. And that's where probably you will need to see, it is easy to probably get a technology, but it's the way you're going to implement it, it's going to be very, very important as well. So I think technology is going to play a key role when it comes to digitalizing the whole procurement experience back for them. And I think technology is getting involved, and that's where the networked economy is going to take the pace.
Sharat, Vedanta is a global company. I'm sure there are a lot of complexities which are involved when you have to manage the procurement processes across various countries. Can you talk about your procurement process? Are you already seeing a transformation in the way goods are sourced, purchased, and paid for?
When you talk about complexity, I think technology comes as a savior. I would want to put a different perspective, or maybe simplify and decode it a little bit. So procurement, usually, if you talk about conventional procurement, it was all about buying products as we require in our operations. Now the time, there is moving to more from procurement, procuring products to procuring solutions which are directly linked to your business outcomes. So the whole point is basically, how do you convert a simple buying into a solution? And that's where I think most important part the technology helps you in, by weaving the gap. The gap is basically data. Data of the product which you are buying, how does it get applied into your operations? How does it get consumed? What impact it makes into your operation? I think so long as we have that dashboard, through technology, once it is weaved, the visibility comes. And the moment visibility comes, the solution comes. And then, of course, the business houses or the service provider or the business partners, I would say, becomes very important. But they have also been, working towards providing solution. That's how the industry is moving, at least as far as our industry is concerned. And then people come forward, they study the data, they look at the data through technology, and then the solutions are provided and developed over a period of time. And that's where you reduce not the cost, but the total cost of ownership, and add value to your business. And that's fundamentally important to my mind in terms of structural shift. So the gap in terms of the conventional procurement and the new age procurement is basically data. And then there are startups, who are disrupting the industry, whose core day-to-day job is to, buy, for example, MRO spares. So the whole idea is tie up with them, release the bandwidth of your commercial organization, and the commercial team can work on techno-commercial initiatives to drive value, and you get a solution.
Interesting. Mansoor, could you share your thoughts on this topic? And if you have any examples in which you could share how digitization has impacted your business in value terms?
So basically, in Reckitt, we believe digitization is one of the core areas we need to invest in, and wherein we get maximum value out of it. So we are using different platforms in procurement. Then there is a data analytics tools we are using to derive the data. Taking the understanding the highest spend which we are doing in what areas. We are doing that through a digital tool. The SRM, we are doing lot of things on a digitization platforms, wherein we can find out how procurement can be a growth enabler to the organization. Because as one of the members said, procurement is not is looking at just as a cost saving function. We have to think well level up as a business partner. Then only we can drive growth in the organization.
Ashwini, a lot of the companies are using SAP solutions, and solutions is now clearly the way to go. Could you share some examples of your solutions with your clients and how they resulted in tangible outcomes in bringing down costs or bringing down cycle time reductions?
I have been into procurement for such a long time now, and in fact, my entire career is around supply chain. And the good part is we don't call it supply chain now. It's a supply network, I would say. For example, every one of us who's there on the system right now, we all have a problem of, let's say there's a machine under breakdown. Now it's very easy to say the machine went under breakdown, and I can get into the system and I can look for a person who can probably come in and sort this out. What if I do not know who's the person from an OEM perspective who's going to come in and actually sort this out for me? What if I do not know where is the manual for this? What if I do not know how to actually sort this out for me, because it's a small problem probably, but I don't have the ready-made solution to it. Now, do I have something which is like an asset intelligence network in place where I'm connected seamlessly through all my OEMs, for all my machinery, and that's where I basically, pick up a request in the system, and the system shows me a glossary of all the problems, and probably I'm getting connected to the OEM straight away within a span of 10 seconds to probably understand, who probably can come from his side and actually look at the machine. On the other hand, if it is very easy to say, if somebody calls from a procurement, where's my material, and this person might say, what, it left my warehouse this morning and it's going to be in your office or in your warehouse, or let's say in your shop floor by the end of the day. But then how do I know where it is right now? Maybe it's stuck, or maybe unfortunately met with an accident. Do I have a logistics business network which can do track and trace? And I think those are the kind of technologies which are also coming out, probably to add certain more reflection to it.
Okay, on that note, we're going to wrap up this discussion. It's been extremely enriching. I think across the world now, companies have recognized the power of procurement, flexible work forces to achieve cost savings, to bring in agility, and more importantly, reduce risk in a world where supply and demand, as we know, has become increasingly volatile. So truly, today, procurement has assumed strategic operational significance. Thank you, gentlemen, once again, Rajesh, Sharad, Naveen, Mr. Ashwini. Thank you for joining in, as well as Mr. Mansoor.